values in the midst of transition. I am Dr. Dan Augusto with the Division of Justice, Security, and Public Safety Professions here at UA Global Campus. I now turn it over to our presenters, a mother and daughter team, Global Campus Assistant Professors Harla Frank and Dr. Kimberly Luke.
Thank you so much, Dan. My name is Kimberly Luke. I'm an assistant professor in liberal arts and gen ed social sciences. My mom, Harla Frank, is an assistant professor in applied behavioral sciences. We're very excited to talk with you today about how UAGC and all organizations can maintain their unique culture and values during times of transition and change. And we're going to go off screen during the presentation, and we'll come back for the question period. The mission of the University of Arizona Global Campus is to provide a community of caring and guidance for academic, financial, mental health, and career support, while providing a path that makes quality college education accessible to adult learners through online, flexible degree and certificate programs. While this mission is focused on our students, organizational culture must look beyond those we serve to those who are stakeholders in that service. Our culture of care undergirds our values and culture and allows us to extend our values and mission to all who have a vested interest in our organization. Our culture of care is built on 5 pillars: communicate, advocate, respect, empower, and student-centered. By acting upon these guiding pillars, we hope to make a transformative experience for our students. But our Culture of Care Foundation is also directed at our administrators, faculty, and staff. We want all to feel valued and heard. You could say that our Culture of Care pillars are the values upon which our organizational structure is built. Does transition and change threaten the values the organization is built upon? It can. However, there are steps that leaders can take to prevent the loss of organizational culture and values that we have worked to establish. We will look at how transition impacts administrators, faculty, staff, and students to understand how seemingly small changes can impact their sense of well-being and security. We will look at the benefits of maintaining a worthwhile culture in the midst of transition. Finally, we will explore the steps that can be taken to build a sense of well-being and security among all stakeholders. Transition and change may threaten the values upon which an organization is built, but there are steps that leaders can take to prevent the loss of organizational culture. This session will explain the benefits of working to maintain a valued and worthwhile culture in the midst of transition and change. What is company culture? It is everything the members of the organizational family think, say, and do while working together to achieve common goals. It reflects the written and unwritten rules the members of the family follow. The company's culture is built upon the collective values of its members, and those values serve to enhance the company's culture. When a company's culture truly reflects its values, the employees understand how their roles support broader goals, which drives focus, accountability, and success. Key components of workplace culture. Core values. These serve as the guiding principles for ethical behavior and decision-making, setting the standard for what the organization stands for. Prevalent behaviors. These are the visible actions and interactions among team members that reflect the organization's norms and expectations. Collective attitudes. These present the overall sentiment and mindset towards work, collaboration, and achieving company goals. Together, these components create a unique atmosphere that shapes employee experiences and significantly impacts satisfaction, productivity, and retention. Now let's take a few minutes to assess your workplace culture. Please grab a piece of paper or open a Word document. I will read 5 statements. For each statement, you should give an answer from 1 to 5, with 1 being strongly disagree and 5 being strongly agree. You will write down your score for each question. Then you will add your ratings and divide by 5 to determine the culture score of your organization. Your culture score reflects your perception of your organization's culture, and this is for your personal benefit. You will not be asked to share your scores with the group. Number one, feel respected and valued in my department or unit. Choose the score from 1, strongly disagree, to 5, strongly agree. Number 2, leadership in my institution communicates expectations and decisions clearly. Choose a score from 1, strongly disagree, to 5, strongly agree. 3, I feel safe expressing ideas, concerns, or disagreement without fear of negative consequences. Choose a score from 1, strongly disagree, to 5, strongly agree. 4, my work, teaching, research, service, or staff contributions is recognized and supported. Choose a score from 1, strongly disagree, to 5, strongly agree. Number 5, overall, my institution's culture supports my effectiveness and well-being. Choose a score from 1, strongly disagree, to 5, strongly agree. Now add up the 5 scores that you listed and divide by 5 to get your culture score. If your organization scored between 4.2 and 5, your organization is characterized by high trust, respect, and psychological safety. You have a thriving culture. Your focus should be to sustain strengths and share best practices. If your organization scored between 3.5 and 4.1, your organization has a positive culture with some uneven experiences. Your focus should be to improve the lowest scoring areas. Your organization scored between 2.8 and 3.4, your organization displays inconsistent support or voice across roles. Your focus should be to listen, diagnose, and adjust organizational structures. Finally, if your organization scored below 2.8, your organizational culture is likely undermining well-being and effectiveness. It has concerning signals. Your organization needs immediate leadership attention. Consider which area, if improved, would make the biggest difference at your institution.
When an organization is going through change, it is easy for its infrastructure to fall apart. During such times, employee satisfaction and sense of comfort are threatened. The feeling of being aligned with the company through common values can be lost. At times of transition, there are many things that must be attended to, but company culture should be the priority. Working to maintain the company's culture and values will provide employees with needed support. Institutions of higher education function as ecosystems in which changes in one component, such as academic units, student services, compliance offices, enrollment teams, faculty governance bodies, and external partners, impact all the others, sometimes in unexpected ways. Consider the institution that adopts a new learning management system. It seems like a tech decision, doesn't it? However, this seemingly practical and isolated change will affect pedagogy, faculty workload, information technology demands, and the student experience. Institutional leaders must anticipate the ripple effects of change. During times of institutional change, organizational culture does not have to be lost. Instead, flexibility can be employed in which the culture is expressed and reinforced differently. Let's examine the ripples of change. The first ripple usually begins within the department or division initiating the change. A curriculum redesign could quickly impact advising systems, registrar workflows, financial aid processes, and technology infrastructure. Adopting new ways of doing, such as moving to a 90 credit hour degree program, would require the collaboration of academic affairs, information technology, faculty development, student support teams, and more. The second ripple, institutional change will affect the students' educational journeys. Any changes to course modalities, academic requirements, office hours, or support services will require student adjustments. It is important to recognize the operational and cultural impacts. There are a multitude of changes that can impact how students navigate their academic journeys. Funding changes can impact access to internships, undergraduate research, and even engagement opportunities. Technology updates might alter communication with regard to responsiveness. It is important that institutions track second-order effects of changes via surveys, focus groups, and user experience mapping in order to maintain continuity and trust. The third ripple, institutional change often requires faculty and staff to acquire new skills, workflows, and cross-departmental relationships. This can mean adjusting teaching approaches, learning to use new technology, applying new advising models, and navigating new performance expectations. A few minutes ago, we mentioned the importance of institutional leaders anticipating the ripple effects of change. In order to do that, institutions must design a structured framework for tracking the effects of long-term change. A structured framework may include clear goals and measurable indicators, regular cross-departmental communication, stakeholder mapping to identify who is affected and how, feedback loops to capture on-the-ground impact, scenario planning to anticipate downstream consequences, transparent reporting to build community trust. Moving from reactive change management to proactive institutional design requires continuous assessment. This process can be facilitated using campus dashboards, data sharing agreements, and strategic planning scorecards to monitor change and the effects of change as it unfolds. There is one constant in the universe, change. While all industries must change to be viable, higher education faces some unique challenges with regard to change. Change in this sector often requires navigating governance structures, political dynamics, budgetary restrictions, and more, and many of these are often in conflict. Due to higher education's deep roots and tradition, implementing change can be challenging. To meet the evolving needs of faculty, staff, students, and the community while maintaining financial stability and competitiveness, organizations of higher education must drive change. John F. Kennedy said, "Change is the law of life, and those who look only to the past or present are certain to miss the future."
Humans are comfortable with the familiar. We can resist change and the discomfort change can bring. However, the challenges faced in higher education require responsiveness to the needs of the students, the institution, and the community, all of which requires leaders who can promote a readiness for change. Leaders must cultivate a culture that is receptive to change. Within higher education, there are increasing challenges, including financial pressures, changing student expectations, ensuring digital resilience and security, uncertainty amongst Congress and Supreme Court rulings, modernizing campus infrastructure and systems, and focus on upskilling and reskilling initiatives. Organizational culture is the unique way that the organization takes its purpose and turns it into action in order to fulfill its promise to its stakeholders. Key factors that shape organizational culture include leadership and communication styles, values and rituals, human capital practices such as hiring and onboarding, work teams and structures, and performance management strategies. Let's examine why company culture matters. The company's purpose informs the company's culture. Company's purpose acts as its compass, explaining why it exists and where it is going. A strong work culture informed by the company's purpose provides employees with straightforward direction regarding how to deliver on the company's purpose and how to work together every day. There are many types of organizational culture, such as strengths-based, customer-centric, inclusive, and high performance. We could say that UAGC encompasses all of these. The one type that seems to strongly illustrate who we are is inclusive. We prioritize equity, belonging, and diverse perspectives, while also managing to be strengths-based, customer-centric, and results-oriented. In the case of institutions of higher education, organizational culture is how we attract students, keep them, and turn them into brand advocates. The positive organizational culture also helps us attract talented employees who then become our brand ambassadors. The organizational culture sets the tone for the workforce. Highly engaged employees, united by shared goals, vision, and values, strive to perform at their best. Companies with strong cultures consistently outperform their competitors. By making cultural continuity a strategic priority during transitions and providing appropriate career transition support, your organization won't just endure change, you'll grow through it.
The values and beliefs that make up organizational structure provide the framework for the company. Companies must find ways to nurture and maintain cultures that incorporate unity, respect, and transparency. It is apparent that maintaining organizational values and culture during times of transition and change is vital to the integrity of the organization. To do that, leaders must model the organization's culture, maintain a positive attitude, and be completely transparent with employees regarding the changes that are taking place. Leaders must also provide resources to help employees during the transition in order to create a sense of safety. Open, detailed, and frequent communication is important to allay feelings of being overwhelmed. This communication must also include attentive listening on the part of the leaders. Open, detailed, and honest communication also encourages students to take part in the change process. Ensuring that students know why the changes are taking place can foster a sense of shared responsibility and limit confusion and resistance. Flexibility and adaptability are vital qualities that enable an organization to thrive during times of change. As we mentioned earlier, open, detailed, and frequent communication is needed and fosters trust. Providing opportunities for collaboration among employees and students creates an inclusive environment in which everyone feels valued. To maintain an organization's culture and shared vision, start with the end in mind. A roadmap leading step by step to the ultimate goal is essential and instills confidence in the stakeholders. Communicate the need for change. Communicate with stakeholders regarding the need for change and encourage collaboration so you do not alienate the people needed to facilitate the changes. Support stakeholders before, during, and after. Make sure you communicate frequently and back up that communication with the support, tools, and training to help stakeholders as they adapt to the changes. Ongoing support is vital. Plan for fatigue. Stakeholder fatigue is understandable, especially if the change process is lengthy. Be aware of the signs of fatigue and be ready to foster renewed enthusiasm by assigning new leaders, using team building exercises, and celebrating wins along the way. Embrace automation. Avoid overwhelming stakeholders by bringing in automation when possible, such as robotic process automation, intelligent document processing, and artificial intelligence assisted automation. Maintaining your success. Once a new process is activated, continue to monitor and analyze performance to be sure it meets expectations. Communicate with stakeholders. Reflect on what worked and what could stand some improvement with regard to the change process from beginning to implementation. Mao et al. Recommends that change managers should engage key stakeholders in consistent, meaningful ways to foster ownership and drive improvements with limited resources. Coordinate with the central administration or university system to clarify roles, identify feasible changes, and drive successful change adoption, especially in areas like technology. Leverage lessons learned from past initiatives to create a change management playbook for future use by practitioners across the institution. People support what they help to create. Give faculty, staff, and students a voice before decisions for change are made. Strategic alignment requires leaders to evaluate whether people, policies, and systems are enabling or impeding strategic goals. Stakeholders must be partners in governance and not just audiences for communication. Effective change plans anticipate detours, build in flexibility, and include contingency strategies. Strategic planning must be more than vision. It must be operational, detailed, and realistic. The individuals selected to be change leaders must understand the mission, operational realities, and strategic goals. Look for stakeholder leaders. These are trusted influencers with credibility across the institution. Results and process thinkers. These are people who care about outcomes and how you get there. Entrepreneurial problem solvers. These are those who thrive in ambiguity and can break through bureaucracy. Effective change leaders, 1, inspire trust while maintaining accountability. 2, stay grounded in institutional values. And 3, know when to bring in external expertise to guide complex transitions. There are practices for leading change effectively. 1, model the way, embody the values and standards you expect from others. 2, inspire a shared vision, rally people around a compelling, future-oriented mission. 3, challenge the process, question outdated systems and be willing to take risks for improvement. 4, enable others to act. Empower teams with authority, tools, and trust. And 5, encourage the heart. Recognize wins, celebrate progress, and fuel long-term morale. When these practices are embedded across leadership, change gains momentum and legitimacy. A final thought. Change is inevitable. Growth is intentional. The way we guide people through the journey is what defines us as leaders. Here we go. So if you have any questions before we have kind of a reflective activity, we'd love to try to answer them.
And I'm going to go through the reference list in case anybody's interested too.
I am not seeing any questions in the chat room. I did have a couple thoughts myself, but those are also not important. So basically, if we have time to, if you want to move forward to your next thing,
Well, we have plenty of time, but we did want to reflect on the survey that we held early in the session. And this was where we asked if you could change any area in your institution, what would it be and how would it make a difference? Does your institution help you feel valued and respected? Does it Do you get clear communication from leadership? Um, do you have the ability to express your ideas, your concerns, or your disagreement? Do you feel recognized? Do you feel like you're doing an effective job? Um, if you would like to share anything about any particular change you might like, we'd love to hear about that and see how that particular change that you might like to see happen could improve your workplace environment and the feeling of community.
One of the first, other than our transition to the University of Arizona, as we were going through this project, I was thinking also about our change away from Waypoint. It has been here as long as I've been here, since 2013, and it's comfortable. It can get glitchy on times, but you know how to run it. So having to transition to a new system, and my heart goes out to all of the course development people who are working through moving all of our courses. I know they have been under the gun, but it does bring a lot of anxiety with it. And one of the first things we did in our department was, okay, how can we save all of these great comments to all of the resources that we're used to using in Waypoint, so that we can continue to use them and our feedback doesn't suffer when we move to SpeedGrader. So that was one change. What's another change that you've seen in your organization, and how did your leaders address that?
And one thing I'll say is we've got an upcoming change with regard to our instructional design company, Learning Mate. So that's going to be a transition. I'm sure we're all going to need to be familiarized with that process. Um, but UAGC is so excellent about providing training, support, job aids, and so forth to help us through those kind of administrative transitions.
And another thing that I really admire about our leadership is they really get out in front of change. I know that when any news comes down, I'm going to hear from my dean probably within the hour, and kind of breaking down how that is going to impact each of us individually. And that does reduce a lot of anxiety, because if I'm left alone with it too long, I can think of all of the things that could go wrong. Dan?
Oh, I was just going to say on that note, as a senior leader in a past life, I have tried to manage a few organizational changes, and one of the things that was super challenging was when the change was happening so fast that you knew it was going to change again before you could get word out to everybody. And so I found myself at times actually having to weigh out and apply discretion to say, okay, I'm actually not going to give anyone this update, because in my experience, it's going to change again by the time they'll get it, and it will be more stressful for them to get two changes and add more confusion. And so there were times where I actually had to decide, let me not relay this right now, because in 2 days it'll be different. And that's a hard thing. That's a tough situation to be in, where do I risk being seen as somebody who doesn't communicate, or do I overwhelm them? And so that was the challenge too. So just something that you reminded me of.
I think that's an excellent comment, Dan, because you go through the research of how you can make transitions easy, but you don't always think about those subtle things working in the background that impact decision making in the moment. And those certainly do come up, and leaders do weigh those, I'm sure, daily.
Adrienne?
Yeah, so I loved the quiz, and I'll be open and honest and say I ended up with a score of 4 for our institution, which I thought was great. And I was considering this, and I thought, well, why do I get anxious? And anybody who's been at UAGC for a long time knows we go in and out of crisis mode very, very frequently. And, and I was thinking through the points that you made, and I think the institution does a great job of being supportive, of giving information, of affirming. And then, what really makes the difference here is, everybody likes what they do, at least everybody I know, even though we may complain about different things. I think everyone likes what they do, and this is their why, and they like being here, and they like their students and their colleagues. So I was thinking, what would be the one thing that would make a difference? And I think an organization can get so excited about change and innovation that it becomes a constant cycle. And I think downtimes are really important. So let's change this, but then let's give it 3 or 4 years, and then let's relax into it and see how it goes, and enjoy that easy time. And I think we haven't, as an institution, we haven't learned how to do that. And I realize there's circumstances that have, being acquired by Arizona, and there's circumstances that haven't allowed that. But I thought about that for my own program, just having gone through program review and made some big changes, and being encouraged to think, okay, what are we going to do next? And I thought, well, maybe we don't need to do anything next. Maybe we teach our classes for a couple of years. We see how the students react. We pull some data. We relax into it. We enjoy this thing we created, and then see, is a big change warranted? And maybe it is, maybe it's not. So anyway, that's just what I was reflecting on as I looked at the theories that you were presenting.
Absolutely. I think that's perfect. I know that I always look forward to July just because we kind of scale back meetings and things like that. That's when people usually schedule their vacations, and it just, gives you a little quieter time before you really ramp up in August. And I think that's important because I know that I need that in order to do a big push in August.
Any other comments?
Thank you, Debbie.
I just want to say, I believe it was Dr. Hanson that was just talking a second ago. I think that is such a super important point, and it goes along with us talking about how we're supposed to be a learning organization. And you can't be a learning organization if you don't let the change set in, and you don't build data collection systems, whether that's surveys or whatever it is, and let it sink in and kind of let the water settle a little bit, and then reevaluate things. It also reminds me of the dissertations that I've done and been a committee member on, where the fact that it's this extended process allows it to be iterative and allows you to think of things and think you know what you're going to do, and you've written a paragraph or whatever, and then you think about it. And if you're me, you wake up in the middle of the night, in a cold sweat, realizing that something came to me in a dream, and then I have to write it down on my little notepad or whatever. But had you not given yourself multiple months to let this sink in and think about that paragraph, you wouldn't have gone through that iterative process and come to this conclusion you were at. And I think as an organization, how much more time do we need when it's a whole organization doing this? I think it's funny. I think a lot of organizational leaders would shudder at the thought of giving it 3 or 4 years. That would make people fall out of their chair. But I think that's a result of us having this expectation that things change so fast and trying to keep up with the Joneses and whatnot. And that's I think that's a super important point that Dr. Hanson, I believe, made. And it'll really take an active effort to do that. But I think it's super important.
Plus, I think that to support that, you also need to give it time to see if it's working, because there's a transition period that things are kind of in flux, and you need to kind of get through that and get, months, maybe years, where you get some good data before you know where to go next. I think our program review process is helpful. We did a total redesign of liberal arts a couple of years ago, and we know what we want for the changes, but it takes some time before, we teach those classes multiple times to see what works, what doesn't, how we need to tweak things, and before we know where we need to go next.
Yeah, I think that it's so important thinking about the breathing room between change, the transition, the training and adjusting, and just identifying what we could improve on, where, when, what decisions may not have been great. I think we need time to rest on those, and to be very, very, and of course, if you identify possible problems in the system, then you're looking at change again. So that could be a trepidation experience as well. But you need that time. I know I design classes for applied behavior analysis, and the board, the behavior analyst certification boards, changes requirements so frequently. You can often just get all of your courses redone, and then another change comes a year later, or something like that. Um, that's rough to deal with. So we definitely need time to pace through change, see how we like it, see how our students like it in educational institutions, and adjust as we go. But what do we need to hold on to as we go through those change and adjustments? And that's our culture. That's our values as an organization. As long as we hold on to those, we've got a tether to UAGC, that makes sure we're authentic throughout those changes, I think.
And I think it's also important to celebrate those successes, because you can get into the mindset where you're just working, you're looking at that next deadline, you're looking at, well, that doesn't matter, it's done, I need to look at. But as human beings, we need to take stock, reflect, get a pat on the back sometimes to say, oh, that worked really well. This is a good thing. And it rejuvenates you so that you're ready for the next initiative.
Dr. Hanson in the chat also mentioned that we basically need to be able to admit when a change hasn't worked and figure out which direction to go. And I think that's a super important thing, going back to the idea of being a learning organization, is that, like, if we're truly doing research, we're supposed to not have that amount of bias where we have a dog in the fight as to whether the hypothesis is shown to be correct or not. And that's kind of what we do in these settings, is we sort of attach ourselves to an endeavor, and we make it work, and we want it to work. And it's like, it's not really what we should be doing here. I think to Dr. Hanson's point, we should be viewing this as a, like, did this work thing? No. Okay. But it's a victory because we learned from it, and now we know what not to do, and hopefully a little more about what to do. And that's an important point. We don't operate in that headspace where we're thinking that it's really a victory to just learn not to do something,
I think that's so important. How many of us have taught classes for so many years, and our students often come in thinking they have to prove what they know instead of learn from the course. We have to learn from the transition. We don't know going in how that transition is going to affect all of the stakeholders. So, learning from it and saying, okay, I learned something here. That's an important part of the process.
That's so funny you mentioned that. I've got a lot of students who have a lot of experience in the real world. Then they come in and then they want to write papers and do assignments where they don't have any references, or they don't show that they've actually applied what you were taught that week. And I've had to actually explain to several of them that it's like, we're doing you a disservice if you just come here and this is an opportunity for you to tell us what you already know, right? That's only part of the equation here. We need you to go to show that you're applying this other research. And so that usually kind of helps them wake up to it a little bit. I've got a little way of saying it, but that's a super important point. I think that we can't just allow that to go that way.
Right. I often tell my students we learn best when we learn from each other. So to give them an opening to share their experience and perspectives. But I want, when I'm looking at papers, when I'm looking at discussion posts, I want to see the content that we're presenting. Um, that's important for our program learning outcomes. So, and for their future, because they're coming at it from a unique perspective, their unique experiences, but they're probably hoping to have new experiences after they get that degree. And what they learn in the classroom will help them with that as well. We're building layers.
So as an organization, we should be doing that too, right? Put our money where our mouth is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Any other questions or thoughts about the topic? And appreciate so much, so many people being here. We really felt that this was a very timely topic, dealing with moving all of the faculty over from to faculty roles at the University of Arizona. That, one thing that I was really concerned about with our leadership having to interview for their jobs was our company culture. Are we going to lose what really makes UAGC special? And so, I mean, I was doing the dance of joy when I found out that all of our deans and assistant deans and department heads were confirmed, because, I think our culture and our care about one another really helps bridge that gap when things, there are a lot of questions and stress about new policies that we don't know how they're going to impact us.
We really appreciate everybody coming out to sit with us today to talk about these important transitions that we're all experiencing. And I agree with Adrienne, Dr. Hansen, that, I think UAGC's done a really, really good job with their communication, their support, and so forth. So very, very thankful to be among such an incredible group. And we want to go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Mom. As a little advertisement, I wanted to plug my mom, Harla Frank, and Yolanda Harper's office hours at 2:30 Mountain Time, 1:30 Pacific. Basically, we're going to be looking at pets. We've got a video where all of your pets take to the Paris catwalk, so it should be a lot of fun and a lot of laughs. I hope you can come out.
That's really funny. I didn't understand you at first, and then as you added context, I was like, oh, I didn't realize you said Pompous at first, but that's pretty great. But I just want to let everyone know, I put a little note in the chat, just providing some information on what they want, attendees to see related to the bigger Culture of Care Summit. So that's there if y'all want to get involved in that. And that's it. So thank everyone for attending. We're down to about 2 minutes left. And so thanks a lot.
Thank you. Thank you all so much.